Welcome to Embers of the Hearth. My name is Sam, and here, in the flicker between silence and smoke, the dead still speak. These are not bedtime stories. These are the marrow-deep echoes of things best left buried. They are unquiet myths that gnaw through time, patient and pale. I unearth them from beneath drift and dust, from the frozen hollows of forgotten belief, and breathe what little warmth I can into their bones. What returns is rarely gentle. It never really was. Some tales vanish like footprints in a thaw. Some, they stay buried. And others, they lie in wait. Tonight we turn not to storm or fire, but to frost, to the kind of cold that doesn't simply bite, but watches, that does not howl but hums, where silence isn't empty, but listening. There is something that lives out past the edge of warmth, something that grins. Let us begin. They say that the North has no memory, that it swallows people whole, men, dogs, machines, without sound or sorrow. But that's not true. The North remembers. It holds things, preserves them, and sometimes it lets them out. Way out beyond the last mapped trails, beyond even the satellite ghost lines, there are stories. They are not written. They are simply passed along. They don't tell them in schools. They whisper them in bunkhouses. They tell them when the wind starts to giggle instead of scream. And one name always comes up. They don't say it loud. They don't want it to hear them. It is, of course, the Mahaha. He wasn't the first. Some nameless man working solo in a government-funded shack, logging ice samples and seasonal wind data. Didn't matter where. Could have been Nunavut. Could have been further. He arrived in winter. Stayed far too long. They found his notes, scattered, water-damaged. But the logs start clean, structured, rational. By the second week, there were oddities. Mild insomnia, strange dreams, laughing in his sleep. By the third, he writes about footprints, long, bare, 5 toes, each too thin, spread unnaturally wide. The prints didn't approach, but they also did not leave. They just danced in circles around his shelter, spirals. They were always clockwise. Nobody agrees exactly on what it looks like. Some say it's tall, lean as famine, skin stretched over frost-bitten bone, blue and veined like ice beneath water. Others, well, they say it's probably small and childlike, but it couldn't possibly be innocent. Everybody agrees about the hands. They're probably too long. Fingers twice the length of a human's, nails like thorns of black ice. And the face, oh God, the face. The grin is always wrong, split far too wide. Sometimes it's torn open. Sometimes it has no mouth at all, just the sensation of smiling, and the eyes, nothing behind them, just mirrored pits reflecting you back, grinning your grin. It doesn't run. It doesn't stalk like a predator. It waits and watches. It amuses itself. It starts by playing with time, freezing your watch, shifting your footprint. It likes to steal things. Your boots will go missing. Your gloves will be gone. And finally, your breath will be taken away. And then it begins to laugh. Not full laughter. A titter. A child's imitation of a joke. Drawn out and airless. It is a sound that follows you. It haunts you. It slips through the snow, clings to your tentacles, and it tickles your spine in the dark. And then it touches one rib at a time, one breath at a time. They say that it tickles you. Not in a fun way, but more as a ritual, as though it's teaching your body to betray you. You will laugh, you will convulse, you will beg, but it won't stop. Not until you match its grin. They found bodies out there, buried beneath snow, so dry it never melts. Mouths torn open, cheeks split, teeth scattered like toys in the frost. Fingers twisted inward, toes gone black, eyes frozen in expressions that don't belong to the dead. Some with smiles carved deep by thin blades, others with faces stretched wide by frost, locked in agonizing glee. And around them, always, those same circles, spirals, patterns that don't lead in or out, like something danced around them over and over. The man in the cabin, his last entries barely qualified as words. They were mostly drawings, spindly figures. There were some ribs, faces with too many teeth, a page smeared in blood, lines scrawled again and again. It's just playing. It likes me now. I laughed. I laughed. I laughed. And then there is silence. The heater had failed. The door was still locked from the inside, but his body was outside, his face buried in the snow. clothes half removed, his hands reaching skyward as if for a final embrace. It doesn't eat. It doesn't even speak. It most assuredly does not even kill in a traditional sense. It breaks the boundaries between pain and joy, turning laughter into death. It makes your body betray itself, and it never stops smiling, because it doesn't understand why you're not enjoying it too. Maybe it was once human. Maybe it was never anything close. Maybe it's just the North given shape. Loneliness with fingers. The cold given a face. The giggle of madness in endless snow. People tell the story for a reason. Not to entertain, not to frighten children, to remind themselves, to remember laughter can be a warning, that when the wind sounds almost joyful, when the silence breaks, not with a howl, but a giggle, you do not go outside, you do not open the tent. And above all, you do not smile back. Because if you do, you've already lost. The cold has settled in again. Whatever stirred in the silence has gone still, and what remains now is only breath and the thought of something listening. Some legends are carved out of thunder, others are born in blood, but this one it rides in on a laugh, thin and wrong, like something trying to remember what joy felt like, and getting it just a little too close to cruelty. The creature at the heart of this story comes to us from the Inuit tradition, but in truth, its footprints have wandered far. It has no grand mythic arc, no prayers, no offerings. It doesn't demand belief. It simply waits, and then it plays. That's the part that clings to you long after the tale ends. That word, play. It doesn't strike, it doesn't roar, it touches lightly, fingers cold as death, gliding over ribs, tracing the places where the body forgets the difference between pleasure and pain. And it laughs, and you do too. Until your laughter doesn't sound like yours anymore. Until your face splits trying to mirror a smile not meant for humans. They say it doesn't stop until you're empty. Not dead exactly, just hollowed out. A vessel filled with air and echoes. There are stories of bodies found frozen stiff, still grinning, eyes glassy with some private joke whispered only to them, and around them always those ritualistic footprints, circling but never crossing, just spinning in snowdrift patterns like a game, with no rules and no end. There's no lesson here, no ancient wisdom to pull from the frost, just a shape in the cold that grins because it can, because it wants you to laugh too. And maybe that's what haunts most of all, Not that something so cruel could exist, but that it might be lonely. So if you ever find yourself too far north, where the sky cracks open and the stillness begins to feel too full, and you hear something giggling just beyond the reach of firelight, don't grin. Don't follow. And whatever you do, don't laugh back. This has been Embers of the Hearth. Until next time, keep the fire burning and beware what listens in the quiet.